Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Crystal Cast. My name is Juan
And my name is Ross.
and we're happy to be here with you. So today episode is actually a continuation of a previous episode where we were speaking about reasons why student visas are being refused.
Yeah, and it's such an important topic. We actually wanted to do this as one episode, but as we continued, we sort of thought, well, look, we need to identify what the issues are. And since then, we've actually spoken with a number of education agents as well, and it seems to be that the issue is continuing. So what we wanted to do is really to kind of separate what the problem and then go into the solution part. So I think it's important that we recap what are the current problems with the student visa.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were speaking about five main reasons why student visas are being refused. And so basically these reasons are when the course progressions don't make any sense, as well as not completing previous courses or changing courses, downgrading courses. The person has been here for 5 years or more in temporary visas, and when students are in ghost courses or ghost schools or schools that are not really making
Yeah,
any sense.
and we sort of, if you watch our last episode, we did sort of rank them from least to most in terms of the severity. But I think it is also important to note that all of these things are important. You know, if you are in Australia for more than 5 years, that's still just as relevant as the course not making sense. And when we talk about the course not making sense, that is going from one field to another. So I think that that's really important because that's going to help you with what we're going to talk about today, and that is the solution to the problem.
Yes. So the idea in this episode, as I was saying before, is to speak about the solutions, and a lot of them actually makes it's common sense, but we need to stress this because obviously the day to day happens and mistakes happen, so things don't go as planned, and then this is when refusal happens. So I want to talk about the first one is just plan it ahead and envisioning what the student actually wants to do. Because
Exactly.
a lot of the time, happens that students they just simply want to find a quick course to apply for the visa.
A quick and a cheap course.
Yeah,
That's
quick and
always
cheap
yeah.
because they want to stay here for a
Yeah.
year or two and then forget about that. And
Yeah.
what's happening now? Refusals.
Exactly.
So I think that trend is not working anymore. It has to stop. And it would be a good time to speak to clients and people in general and suggest them strongly to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Draw a vision, draw a timeline on how things can be working for you and make sense for the preparation of your future.
Yeah, and I really like what you said there because I think sometimes with immigration, what can happen is that it can become a little bit transactional. So let's say a student asks, well, I want to be enrolled in a particular course because it will get me a student visa, or because I hear that it gets PR or whatever the plan is, but there's no actual vision, and I think that's a distinctive factor. So to me, if someone's saying, look, I really don't want to study, I just want to work, well then perhaps maybe it's where you kind of have that honest and frank conversation and say, well, you do know that you do need to study. When you get a student visa, there's limited work rights, so maybe we can have a look at other options like a working holiday visa. So that there are other options. Maybe you can come to Australia on a visitor visa and actually see if you like the country. So have that vision. I completely agree with you. Sometimes, these days we want that solution straight away, but I think pausing, yeah, that's really important.
100%. And it is reflected when someone has the plan and the vision, it reflects in the genuine statements. It reflects in everything they do. And I believe, that positively impacts on that application.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that because it brings us to point number two, and that is to justify your choice with valid reasons to study a course. and support it with documents. So basically, whilst the GT statement is gone, when you look at the genuine study test, it does look at the study pattern. So therefore, it needs to make sense, and sometimes reading back to yourself what you wrote. So you want to study a particular course. Why do you want to study that course? And if you're going to be making a statement that you claim to be a fact, it needs to be supported by evidence. And I think, well, what I'm seeing where situations go potentially wrong is when people not necessarily envision, but they kind of overpromise. And what we're talking about, sort of off camera as well, is a typical one would be studying a hospitality course and then saying, "I plan to go back to my home country and open up thousands of hotels, and run this sort of global empire of businesses." Now that's nice. Everyone would love that, but it's just not a reality. Most people would not do that. So sometimes keeping it simple is a better way to go about it than to overcomplicate it and put forward this complex business plan that doesn't really make any sort of sense. There's no valid reason. How could you possibly start a business when you have no business background? It just wouldn't work. So I think, to be honest, the planning ahead and justifying your choice, it almost goes hand in hand. You can't really do one without the
Yeah,
other because you need to
exactly.
plan. But when you plan, you need to justify why you're sort of planning it, and then that's when you probably should seek an advice from a professional who understands how these visas work, and they would be able to tell you whether what you've got in mind uh, makes sense rather than what you heard that your friend did or your colleague did, because everyone's immigration journey is very different. So we can't just rely on third party information. It just doesn't, unfortunately, work like that. And especially now with all the changes that are coming in, I feel like it's kind of more black and white these days in
Yeah,
terms of refusals.
100%. And last but not least, and of course makes a lot of sense, is complete the course. Because we see that a lot of the time people or students are not completing their courses.
Yeah, and it's I mean, look, as you said, it makes sense in terms of saying if you're going to apply for a student visa, complete the course. But when you look at Direction 106, it does now say look at the previous study pattern. Has the person done the assessments? Um, have they attended the course? But when you say complete the course, Juan, can you elaborate on that? What does that actually mean? I mean, obviously you got to finish it, but what else do you need to do like during the course? What else might place you in a position where you may not be completing the course?
Well, like you were saying, Ross, like attendance is very important because students actually can lose or get the COA cancelled
Yeah,
because they're not attending the course for and not providing valid reasons for not attending, but also achieving the grades they need to
yeah,
achieve. Like if the student keeps failing, not dealing in a proper way with the school as per why they're failing, they're not going to complete the course. Also, they perhaps just abandon altogether the
yeah,
course and then pretend to want to apply to another visa, and the school most definitely gonna report the student
yeah,
has not completed the course.
yeah,
So there are
yeah,
some elements that that are taken into account when a course is completed,
yeah, yeah,
and definitely like I think we mentioned this last week. I had a consultation with these clients where I saw that they basically stopped two different courses and they want to apply for a further visa. And I told them, look, the report he says that you're not completing your courses, you cancel it because you didn't like it, you decided to start a different one and then didn't even actually start it. So I'm thinking, look, you haven't planned ahead, you haven't
yeah.
draw
See
like
how
a
it goes.
vision.
It goes
Yeah,
back to
yeah,
the other
yeah.
points, and no, I agree with you 100%. And look, I suppose Well, it is in a way a little bit ironic because you actually can stop a course if you wanted to. So, say for example, if you're ill, if you need time off, or whatever the reasons are, there are procedures that every college has in terms of how you go about it. But unfortunately, what happens is people go the wrong way about it. So they literally just don't say anything and they don't
Mm,
attend the course.
mm,
So that's where it gets almost sort of it's the most obvious one, complete the course, and when you don't do it properly, it can. And the other thing that you said was applying for subsequent visas, substantial compliance with
exactly.
visa conditions. So again, planning ahead.
Yeah.
So it's just really really important to take a step back and think, okay, but if I stop the course, what's the procedure? And if I don't know the procedure, is there an international sort of division within the college where I can go to and say, hey, I'm planning to pause the course. Maybe you ran out of money. Things happen.
Mm,
Maybe I don't know. I'm sort of not feeling well. I need time off. Maybe I'm too stressed. That's life.
yeah,
Things
yeah,
happen.
of course.
But I think the worst thing that you can do is just not say anything and
Mm,
then will always be surprised that the
yeah.
Department of Home Affairs sends you that cancellation,
Mm,
or the visa gets refused.
mm. All right, and I think this brings us to the end of this episode. I think it's been an interesting topic, and I actually feel that there could be a lot more to talk because it's very important, like appeal
We
and
could make a
things.
part three. We could make
Yeah,
a
yeah,
part
yeah.
three, but that's but it is. I completely agree with you. It's a really interesting topic, and I suppose it will probably come back in terms of an update as to what's happening with student visas. So maybe there will be a part three after all.
Yeah, yeah. Stay tuned, and if anything, you can ask us questions, you can call us, you can send us an email. We'll be ready to respond.
See you next week.